Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Switch gears, and I want to hit on, I guess, what you would call the other biggest story in college football. So it's interesting, right? Because earlier in the show, we obviously talked Deion Sanders, Colorado. And that is the biggest story in college football. But it feels like every time we're ready to move on from Coach Prime, something else happens where we have to talk about him again. Why do I bring it up? Well, it's because that's kind of the same thing with the Alabama quarterback situation. Every time we're ready to move on, something else happens, and something new happened earlier this week since we last recorded Monday's show. I will say this for Colorado. At least Colorado, by the way, is fun. Alabama's quarterback situation is just depressing. But here's a quick reminder of everything that has happened with Alabama's quarterback situation so far to date. One, we had a crazy quarterback battle in the fall camp. 3 guys enter. Nick Saban at a press conference actually publicly said, like, I need one of these guys to go win this thing because all of them are waiting for me to hand them the job. That was probably red flag number one that things weren't going well, but Jalen Milroe is ultimately named the starter and starts week 1 against Middle Tennessee State. To his credit, he looks pretty good. Maybe Middle Tennessee's bad. We don't really know. We go into week 2 against Texas and we get clarification. Jalen Milroe doesn't feel like the answer. Really good runner, really good on the deep ball, not great in between. And Alabama ends up losing to Texas 34-24. Well, a week ago, we find out that Jalen Milroe is ultimately going to be benched and that Alabama is going to give Tyler Buchner, the Notre Dame transfer, a shot at the job. Well, Tyler Buchner got a grand total of 14 passes before he was ultimately benched by Nick Saban. But the crazy part was Tyler Buchner was not replaced by Jalen Milroe, but instead replaced by the third stringer, Ty Simpson. Did you get all that? Well, okay, good, because here's the update since Monday. As after the South Florida game, Alabama did win 17-3. Jalen Milroe has now been renamed the starting quarterback at Alabama. So keep in mind, got benched last week. Then the guy who replaced him also got benched. And then they did not go to Jalen Milroe, but instead to somebody else. Yet after the game, Nick Saban said that Jalen Milroe has done enough and he is going to be the starter. And so it's been really interesting since Jalen Milroe was officially named the starter again on Monday, because we've gotten all sorts of conspiracy theories out of Tuscaloosa. Was Jalen Milroe benched? Was there somehow some sort of revolt in the Alabama locker room when he got benched? And that is why everybody was so upset and why Alabama played so poorly. So what I want to do is tell you why I actually think Alabama went back to Jalen Milroe, why Nick Saban made the decision. But before we do, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a little myth busting with Torres. We're going to do a little X-Files conspiracy theory with Torres, because what I want to go ahead and do is shoot down all the reasons why I think some of these conspiracy theories on what's really going on behind the scenes are mostly tomfoolery, okay? By the way, tried to do this segment with the X-Files music underneath. It did not go well. Maybe we get to it next time. I'll give you a little do 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 do. You get the point. Let's go to conspiracy theory number 1 on what's really going on at Alabama. Conspiracy theory number 1 is that Jalen Milroe was actually suspended last week. That is why he did not play. I don't buy it one bit. And the reason I don't buy it is because anybody who covers Alabama, anybody who was around Alabama at all, says that Jalen Milroe is literally one of the nicest kids on the planet. As a matter of fact, that's a lot of the argument of why he won the job in the first place and why there would have been a revolt if he did not play. It's because everybody loves him. Nick Saban loves him. The staff loves him. The locker room loves him. The support staff loves him. The media who covers this team can't stop raving about him. And so it would, I'm not saying it couldn't have happened, but it would run completely counter to everything we know about him as a kid. 2, let me ask you a question. When somebody does something dumb off the field, when has Nick Saban ever covered his butt? Think about a few years ago. Remember Jaleel Billingsley? Remember that name? He was a kid, really talented tight end. In that locker room, he caused trouble. And Nick Saban called him out in the press. Like, do you want to be great or not? Kid ended up transferring. I don't even know where he is. He transferred to Texas. I don't know if he ended up staying there or not. I didn't look it up. By the way, remember last spring, Tony Mitchell, freshman, gets arrested, speeding and gun. Remember Nick Saban suspends him? Remember Nick Saban says there is no wrong place, wrong time? So like the idea that Nick Saban is somehow covering for this kid, I just don't buy it. Two, here's the other thought that could have potentially happened on Saturday. Again, conspiracy theory, Conspiracy theory is that the whole locker room loves Jalen Milroe, which I believe, and that when he was benched, there was essentially a revolt, and that team did not try hard because they did not want a quarterback to succeed. Respectfully, I've heard other people say it. I don't criticize others' opinions. I don't want to call any individual, I don't want to call any individual a name because I'm not here to criticize other people that have opinions. I have many of my own. That just makes zero sense to me. Let me explain why. First of all, if there was a team-wide conspiracy theory to get Jalen Milroe back into the starting lineup as a starting quarterback, the team did a very bad job, okay? And here's why. The defense held South Florida to 3 points. The defense was lights out. The defense was fantastic on Saturday against South Florida. Now, admittedly, it's South Florida. They stink. But if the whole locker room was in on this, the defense did a really bad job. You know who else did a really bad job? If this is a coup to get Jalen Milroe the starting job back, how about Roydell Williams, the running back who went for over 100 yards and basically put the team on his back late to seal the win? So, was there a team-wide coup? If so, it was a terrible coup. Maybe it was just the O-line. But even then, that doesn't make sense from this reason. Let's say that the O-line really said, screw it, we're not going to try because we want our guy at quarterback. Well, you're not just screwing Tyler Buchner, and you're not just screwing Ty Simpson. By the way, X-Files music, do. You're not just screwing the two quarterbacks. You know who else you're screwing? The running backs in the backfield. Roydell Williams, you think he's happy having 6, 7, 8 guys tackling him every time he touches the football, going at him full speed? Doesn't make sense. You know who else would probably be pissed? All those wide receivers who are probably trying to put up stats and get to the NFL. You think they're going to sacrifice a week of game film on principle to get Jalen Milroe as a starting quarterback? Doesn't make sense. And then 3, let me ask a simple question. If there was a coup, if it was about getting Jalen Milroe a starting job, and if the O-line purposely stunk to get Jalen Milroe back, well, what about the week before when Jalen Milroe was the starting quarterback and they couldn't block anybody against Texas? Because I remember the Texas game. Alabama ran for about 3 yards per carry. If you take Jalen Milroe's rushing yards out, it was a lot fewer than that. Things were so bad, Nick Saban was literally asking people on his call-in show, shout out Pee-wee, what he had to do to get the O-line fixed. So I don't buy some crazy conspiracy theory that it's a team-wide coup. What I believe happened this week and why I believe Jalen Milroe is now the starting quarterback is a few things. One, I do believe that a week ago out of Texas, Nick Saban did not know if Jalen Milroe was the best answer for his team at quarterback. I do believe that. I think he wanted to see Tyler Buchner. I think when he realized that Tyler Buchner definitely isn't the guy, and he probably knew that going in, he sees this guy at fall camp. He then wanted to see Ty Simpson in game action. And I think Ty Simpson played actually pretty well. But even in that game action, he realized, you know what, we're going to find a way to win this thing. But if we want to win games going forward, we can't do it with either of those guys. And what I really believe Nick Saban realized is this. He realized the same thing that we have all realized. He realized that the offensive line stinks. By the way, conspiracy theory number 3. I heard this as well, that Nick Saban was purposely putting Tyler Buchner and Ty Simpson out there to prove that those guys were not capable. I don't buy that because, again, if that was the case, then the O-line did a bad job, unless the O-line is now conspiring with Nick Saban. What I believe Nick Saban is saying with this Jalen Milroe switch to quarterback, this is what I truly believe is happening. I think he realizes a couple things. He realizes, forget the quarterback position for half a second. He is basically answering the question that I posed on Monday's Aaron Torres pod. I said, everybody wants the quarterback answer, the O-line answer. What if there is no answer? And I think Nick Saban is slowly starting to realize there's no great answer on this roster. The O-line is not good and certainly can't pass block. The quarterbacks are probably not capable. And so what's the old saying? You got to make chicken soup or chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? I think that's essentially what Nick Saban is doing right now. What he realizes is a couple of things. My O-line can't pass protect. So Tyler Buckner, you're out because you can't make enough plays with your feet. Ty Simpson, probably not the right guy. We can run block, but more importantly, we play really good defense. And that's the thing that I think has been totally lost over the last couple of weeks with this Alabama team. I keep hearing, oh, it's last year all over again. No. The defense was bad last year. Did you see the defense against Hendon Hooker? Did you see the defense against Jaden Daniels? Did you see the defense against Quinn Ewers when he was hurt, before he got hurt, That defense was bad. This defense is actually really, really, really good. Everyone wants to talk about the Texas game, 34 points. As I've said many times, Alabama had the lead going into the fourth quarter against Texas. That defense gave up 13 points through 3 quarters against the Longhorns. And so I think what Nick Saban is realizing is this. The plan I had going in, again, I'll use another analogy. The Mike Tyson line, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, Nick Saban had a plan, and then he got punched in the mouth. And his plan of we're going to play complementary football, we're going to run the ball, we're going to throw the ball, we're going to play defense, it's not working. I think what he realizes is this. We have to play great defense every week. To win, we're going to have to play great defense. The good news, we're not facing a quarterback better than Quinn Ewers all year. Sorry, Will Rogers, who Mississippi State doesn't even let throw the ball. Sorry, Jackson Dart. Sorry, whoever. You're not playing a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers. So what we need to do is play great defense. With these new clock rules, we need to run the ball more than we thought. And that is the one thing that Jalen Milroe can do. And so over the next couple of weeks, I expect Alabama football to play ugly, ugly, ugly football. But the goal is not to win with style. It's not to win as if Mac Jones is your quarterback and Steve Sarkisian is calling plays, or Tua is your quarterback and whoever is calling plays, Lane Kiffin. It is, can we win? Can we just find a way to win? And the way to win is to chew up the clock and rely heavily on our defense. By the way, we're seeing other coaches with these new clock rules do the same. Billy Napier literally said in his Monday press conference last week, we have to keep Tennessee off the field. And if you go back to that Florida-Tennessee game, I forget the stat, but they threw the ball like 3 times in the second half. They got the lead, chewed up the clock, found a way to win no matter how ugly it was. And I think Alabama's kind of doing the same. I think Nick Saban looks at this Ole Miss game and says, we're at home. If we don't turn the ball over, Ole Miss has some questions. First of all, Pete Golding coaches that defense. So that's one. Pete Golding, the former Alabama offensive coordinator. But 2, the Ole Miss offense is putting up big stats. But if you look at their games, they're all close until the fourth quarter. Then Ole Miss kind of runs away from teams. But I think it was 17-17 going into the fourth quarter against Tulane. Last week, it was like 17-3 against Georgia Tech. And I think that's what Nick Saban's trying to do. Can we survive Ole Miss? Can we survive Mississippi State, who's terrible, in a week from now? And if we can we start to build momentum? Can we start to build confidence with that O-line? Can we start to build it at the quarterback position? Maybe it happens this year, maybe it doesn't. But Nick Saban knows he has no other option. Now, the good news is I don't believe this means the dynasty is over. I don't believe it means the dynasty is dead. I don't believe it means Nick Saban is retiring. They have the number 1 quarterback in America committed for 2024, Julian Sand. We know that Nick Saban will not make the same mistake in the transfer portal twice. But what this says to me is Nick Saban is going to do what he has done great throughout his career. He's going to play to his team's strengths. And more importantly, he's going to play to the rules. Remember, a decade ago, he complained about the speed and tempo of college football. What does he do? Hires Lane Kiffin, recruits Tua, changes everything. Now, I think it's the opposite. He sees those new rules. He knows the personnel he has, and he says, we're going to have to win a lot of 20-16, 14-10 type games and just try to survive this year and get to next year. Will it work? I don't know. But in my opinion, that's what happened on Saturday. That's what happened this week. That is why Jalen Milroe is the starting quarterback, and it will be fascinating to watch this all going forward.